Now, is the table really stupid? No, but my ego likes to place that on there, and therefore it's not my fault. How could it be? So we need those to learn our lessons in life while we're down here. Our ego keeps us in this false state of reality. It keeps our mind busy with worries. Our mind likes to worry about stuff, doesn't it? If you don't have anything to worry about, sit down for 5 minutes. You'll find something. Whether it's that you've just wasted that 5 minutes, whether or not it's what somebody said to you yesterday, and what exactly did they mean by that? There can be lots of reasons. It does not like soul advancement. So if your mind can keep you busy worrying about things, it has no worries that your soul is learning anything that it needs to know. So it seems that the ego is fed by fear, which, as we know, that's the opposite of love. Now, love is the soul's domain. That's our higher self. That's our peace from God. Now, our ego will allow us to go in short periods to connect with Source, as in meditation. Now, I assume most of us here practice meditation. For those of you who say, no, I haven't been able to get it, imagine getting in your car, driving to a store, and realizing, how did I get here? How many of us have done that? I do it on the highway all the time. Now, I get off at the right exit, so something's working. But how does all that happen? That's a form of meditation. Another one I like to describe to people is staring in fire. How many people like to be at a campfire? And you're just gazing in the fire. You're not thinking about absolutely anything. I find that's a really true form of meditation. Okay, so why are our minds controlled so easily by ego? Well, our minds, our brains, our ego. That's the physical part of our energy. That's the lowest our energy can go. So it's no doubt that we're controlled by it. We are ego. It's a physical representation of our soul. It's the lowest vibration that we can go, this physical form. So our thoughts, those things that define who we are, is actually ego. And as we know, that's not our true self. That's not our higher self. So if I were to put it in marionette terms, who remembers those? Doll and you work it with the strings? Someone better, because that's what they gave you this morning. So when ego's controlling a marionette, it would be like upside down. So you have everything coming in, and you're trying to manipulate this by holding up its legs. It's almost impossible. You'd be struggling with it, struggling against gravity, struggling against everything. But you would be kept mentally engaged at all times. You wouldn't be worrying about anything else but keeping this marionette up. Now, when we switch to our natural state and we're connected to Source, viewing with love, that marionette returns to right side up. It's the knowledge now powering it, not our thoughts, but knowledge. So it flows easily into the marionette and all the strings are responsive. And the control over oneself becomes effortless at that point. Now, a good example of the differences of an experience using ego versus higher self would be empathy versus sympathy. Now, a lot of us think of that as pretty much the same thing. But when you take a closer look, it's not. You see, when your ego is controlling you, you can be sympathetic towards somebody. Oh, you have a cold? Oh, that's awful. Oh, you should drink Neocitrin. Here, take a Kleenex. Oh, you'll feel better by the morning. Don't worry. We're trying to make them feel better. We're trying to make it go away. We're not trying to help in any way. We're just being sympathetic. And that's the ego. Now, if we're being empathetic, or feeling empathy for the person, we will go into that feeling with them. We will take ourselves into that sick feeling, into knowing what it was like, to truly acknowledging what they're feeling, to feel it ourselves. Now, we still might offer, relief that helped for us in the past, but that's coming from a different standpoint. That's coming from love. When we treat people with empathic ways, we're actually loving them. So why is our ego afraid of our consciousness to be in higher vibrations? Well, as I said before, fear. But fear of what? Fear of becoming free from mind. That's our ego. If we become free from mind, where's our ego? Fear of understanding spirit. Well, now we can't have ourselves getting too knowledgeable. It'll be too hard to keep us trapped here. And ultimately, the worst fear for our ego is ascension. Now, the last one might seem unattainable. I only know of a few people that were granted ascension. But just as we imagine the worst possible outcome, our ego may be threatened by its possible worst outcome, which is demise. Now, I'm sure you guys like me all got in trouble when you were kids, and the punishment wasn't quite dished out yet. And in your mind, you can think of 100 times worse than ever possibly could be handed down. And that's kind of what the ego does too. That's kind of what we all do, don't we? We imagine the absolute worst. Now, saying all that, the ego is needed for our physical incarnation. It's almost like a catch-22. Without it, we ascend. So our ego is needed to keep us here. It's a vital part of us that we need to be aware of. We need to know its function and its purpose. And we need to understand. And the best thing to understand is that ego is ruled by fear. Then we have love, our soul, our spark of God. From this viewpoint, we see things as they are. We understand that this physical world is not really our natural state. We accept experience as experience. Now, our egos like to see things as good and bad, don't they? We love to label stuff. This is good, that's bad, that's okay. Now, the reason the ego does that is to keep our consciousness in this virtual reality that we ultimately created for ourselves. So getting back to Eckhart Tolle's quote, "Who am I then if not the voice in my head? I am the one who sees that." Now, how do we achieve that? Simple. I'd like you to close your eyes, if you will, and listen to me. Listen to me talk. Listen to my voice and pay attention to the fact that you are listening to me. Now pull your consciousness higher. Begin to observe yourself sitting here, listening to me. Observe what you are doing, what you are thinking. Don't hold on to thoughts, allow them to flow. But take note of how you feel about them. Can you sense the ego trying to pull you back? Stay up. Pull yourself back far enough that you see yourself as another person. Emotionally disconnected, only observing. Look at yourself. No judging, just observing. Look at the clothes you wore today. How you brushed your hair. No judging, just observing. Now come back to us, to this room, and open your eyes. Did you experience the soul, your higher self? That peacefulness? Just a few seconds of peacefulness can do so much. That is our natural state. We all get told to be spiritual is to be. That is being. That is just observing. That's the real you. That's the one that loves. That's the one that's present. It's the one that observes the player, yet knows it's not. Now, obviously, we can't live in that state. We have so many realities. We need to go to work every day. We need to have our family, take care of our family, our home. We do live in a physical world. So it's best to come at peace with having a dual existence. But knowing that the physical stuff isn't reality, not in the true sense. That is the liberation that Eckhart talks about. Problems become easier to deal with when you can view from the higher self, from love. Things are put into perspective. Life becomes easier. We start to understand that we're not this meat suit that we walk around with, that we inhabit. We are the one who watches. So when asked in the future, who are you? You can respond, I am the observer. Thank you for listening to Spirit.